There we go. Okay, it's good to see everyone near and far. Uh, and wishes for a Shana Tova, a happy and healthy new year. We're on chapter 18 in Joshua, page 103 in our book. And we'll get to the altars, ancient Israel soon. As I've been doing, I'll read through and translate as we go, and then get back to the commentary in our edition, and then read the ancient Israel. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So the land has been apportioned to Ephraim and Manasseh and Judah, and so now we're expecting the land to continue to be apportioned to the rest of the tribes. So, Vayikahalu kol adat b'nei Yisrael Shiloh, vayashkinu sham et ohel moed, v'haaretz nichbesha lifnehem. So the whole congregation of the people of Israel gathered in Shiloh, and they set up there the tent of meeting. So you could say that they set up the Mishkan. Mishkan comes from the same word as the verb vayashkinu. So they erected the Mishkan there, and the tent of meeting, and the land was conquered before them, or had been conquered before them. 2, Vayivatru bivnei Yisrael asher lo chalku et nachalatam shiv'a shivatim. And there were among the people of Israel who had not been apportioned their inheritance. So there were left 7 tribes. 7 tribes were left who had not been apportioned land and inheritance in the land of Israel. 3, Vayomer Yehoshua el bnei Yisrael, ad ana atem mitrapim lavo lareshet et haaretz, asher natan lachem Adonai Elohei avotechem. Joshua said to the people of Israel, how long are you going to be slack in going to inherit the land which God, the God of your ancestors, gave to you? Now, this is an interesting question, because Joshua is the one who's apportioning the land. So how come he's blaming the Israelites for not taking up their portions? Because we hadn't read about the people, we read about lots, and how then Judah and Ephraim and Manasseh got their land, but we didn't read about Joshua doing that. So how can he blame the people when it seemed like he was in the process of doing it? So we'll see. 4, Havu lachem, excuse me, Shlosha anashim lashavet, ve'eshlachem vayakumu vayitalchu va'aretz, vayichtavu ota lefi nachalatam vayavo'u elai. So bring forward 3 people per tribe, and I'll send them out, and they'll get up and they'll walk around the land and they'll write it. So here it says they'll describe it. They'll write it down, they'll kind of like take a survey according to their inheritance, and they'll come back to me. So I'm not sure of this process. Like while they go out, are they going to decide while they're going out, okay, I'll take this area, you guys take this area? Or what is this writing process, surveying process supposed to be? 5, Vehit chalku ota leshiv'a chalakim, Yehuda ya'amod al givulo minegev, Uveit Yosef ya'amdu al givulam mitzafon. And they'll divide it, the land, to 7 parts. Judah will stand on its border from the south, and the house of Joseph will stand on its border from the north. Or abide, it says abide, but technically, literally, it stands. So the Judah will stay in its place, the house of Joseph will stand in this place, and then the 7 other tribes will get to pick from the rest of the territory. Yes, Barry?
I thought that Joseph's portion was divided between Manasseh and Ephraim.
Yes, and then so Josh was just doing shorthand by, instead of saying Ephraim and Manasseh, he's saying the house of Joseph.
Okay.
Also,
okay.
just reflecting again, foreshadowing the rest of the Bible, how the land of Israel is described as the northern kingdom being the house of Joseph and the southern kingdom being the house of Judah. Those because they are the prominent tribes of the 12 tribes in the land of Israel.
Also, you translated the word slack, and the book has the same word, slack. That the Hebrew word, I mean, I know of slackers.
Well,
I think of that as a modern word, but it obviously is
no,
not.
it's not a slacker in terms of lazy. It's slack in terms of weakening strength. Okay, that's what it means. So I was using the book's translation here because I wasn't sure about the translation of the word. So it means to weaken. How long have you been? Well, but that's what it literally means, to weaken. But here in this context, it means to be taking your time, being lazy. Okay. All right. 6. Va'atem tichtavu et haaretz shiva chalakim, v'havetem elai hena, va'yariti lachem goral po lifnei Adonai Eloheinu. And you write the land into 7 parts, and bring it to me here, and and I will cast lots here before God, our God. So in other words, I think what he's saying is, you can come up with a way of dividing up the land, but I'll be sure to make sure that God supports it through the lottery that we'll do here.
It's also interesting that he has them make the divisions into equal lots, not knowing who's going to get
equal. We don't know if they're equal lots.
Well, or into lots. As a group, they're making the lots, but it's not necessarily apportioned to any particular person yet. And it just reminds me, I had a cousin an older cousin, my stepfather's first cousin, who always said, whenever you're sharing food, one person cuts and the other person picks. And that guaranteed that the portions would be fair. And it seems like this is a version of that. He's telling them to go out and make the demarcations.
Right.
Without actually assigning who's getting which one.
Well, so right. So, but he's just making this into a spiritual process. In other words, he could have just said, you go out and divide the land, come back to me, and let me know how you divided it. But he's not leaving it at that. He's saying, okay, you figure out how you're going to divide it, but I'm going to do this last step of this lottery, because you're going to bring it to me, and then I'm going to bring it to God in the form of the lottery, and we'll see if God confirms it or not. All right, 7. Ki ein chelek la leviim bekir bechem, ki chehunat Adonai nachalato, V'gad u'Reuven v'chatzi shevet ha'Menashe lakchu nachalatam me'ever layarden mizracha, asher natan lahem Moshe eved Adonai. So, because there's no portion for the Levites among you, because they are God's appointed, for the priesthood of the Lord is their inheritance. Yes, okay, because the priesthood of God is his inheritance, and God and Reuven and half the tribe of Manasseh already took their portions on the other side of the Jordan River eastward, which Moses, the servant of God, gave to them. So this is how the book and Joshua are reminding us who's left to need a portion in Israel. 8, Vayakumu anashim, vayelchu, vayetzav Yehoshua et halcholchim, lichtov et haaretz lemor, lechu vehitalchu vaaretz, vechitvu ota, veshuvu elai, ufo, ashlich lachem goral lifnei Adonai beshilo. So the men got up and they went, and Joshua commanded the goers, the walkers, to write, to describe, to write, to survey the land, saying, go and walk around the land and write it and return to me, and here I'll send out the lot before God in Shiloh. Right? He just said that he was going to do this, and he says it again. 9, Vayelchu ha'anashim, vayavru va'aretz, vayichtavuha le'arim, le'shiv'a chalakim al sefer, vayava'u el Yehoshua el hamachaneh Shiloh. So the men went around the land and wrote it according to the cities for 7 portions. They wrote it in a scroll. A sefer in modern Hebrew is a book. There were no books back then, so it's a scroll. It says book here in the translation. It's not a book, it's a scroll or a parchment. And they came to Joshua to the camp in Shiloh. 10, Vayashlech lahem Yehoshua goral b'Shiloh lifnei Adonai, vayechalek sham Yehoshua et haaretz livnei Yisrael kemachlekotam. And Joshua sent them a lottery in Shiloh before God, and Joshua divided there the land to the people of Israel according to its divisions. 11, Vaya'al goral mate b'nei Binyamin lemishpachotam vayetze gevul goralam bein b'nei Yehuda uvein b'nei Yosef. So the lot arose for the tribe of the family of Benjamin, the sons of Benjamin according to their families, and it turned out that the boundary of their lot was between the children of Judah and the children of Joseph. Vayehi lahem 12, Vayehi lahem agvul lifat tzafona min hayarden va'alah hagavul el ketef Yericho mitzafon va'alah bahar yama v'hayu totzaotav midbara beit aven. So their boundary became at the edge of the north from the Jordan, and the boundary went up to the shoulder of Jericho from the north, and it went up in the mountain towards the sea, and it went out. The end of the boundary went out to the desert of Beit Aven. I'll just say we don't know where these places are. I mean, we know where Jericho is, but we don't know where Beit Aven is, and that's why the commentary all along is suggesting places for this. It's just interesting when you drive around Israel, you'll notice that there are signs that say you're entering the district of Benjamin, or you're entering the district of Zebulun. So in other words, in modern Israel today, the state of Israel is divided into these districts. They're not official legal districts. It's just how on the map it looks. And then there's regional councils too. It's possible the regional councils, which do have some municipal powers, are also called by names of the tribes. So it's just how in modern Israel, trying to maintain this ancient connection to the land. 13. Va'avar misham hagavul Luza el ketef Luza negba hi Beit El v'yarad hagavul atrot adar al hahar asher minegev levet choron tachton. And then the boundary there passed to Luz, to the shoulder of Luz, or the corner of Luz, or it says the side, to the south. This is Beit El. And the boundary then went down to Atrot Adar on the mountain, which is from the south of Beit Choron underneath. Vata'ar Hagavul, 14, Venasav Lifat Yam Negba, Min Hahar, Asher al Pnei Beit Choron Negba, Vehayu Totsaotav El Kiryat Baal, Hi Kiryat Yarim, Ir Bnei Yehuda, Zot Pa'at Yam. And the border was drawn and turned around to the western side, southward from the mountain, which is near Beit Choron in the south, and the border went out to Kiryat Baal, which is Kiryat Yearim, which is a city of the children of Judah. This is the western side. 15. Ufa'at negba miktsei Kiryat Yearim v'yatsa hagavul Yama v'yatsa el Ma'ayan me Neftoach. And the southern side at the edge of Kiryat Yearim, and the boundary went out to the west, and it came out at Ma'ayan, at the spring of the waters of Neftoach.
One of those place names has Baal in it.
Yes.
Baal being the god of Canaanites.
Don't know.
Okay.
Yes. So the old name was Kiryat Baal. It became Kiryat Yarim. So it's possible the village was named for the Canaanite god and took over an Israelite name. Yeah. 16. Vayarad hagavul el kitzei hahar asher al pnei gei ven hinom asher be'emek refaim tzafona v'yarad gei hinom el ketef hayevusi v'negba v'yarad ein rogel. So the boundary then, the border then went down to the edge of the mountain, which is near the valley of Ben Hinnom, which is in the valley of Rephaim, northward, and it went down into the valley of Hinnom to the edge of the Jebusites southward, and it went down to Ein Rogel. So these are places. We know where Emek Rephaim is in Jerusalem. We know where Ben Hinnom is on the eastern slope of the old city of Jerusalem. And Ein Rogel, I think we know where that is also. There is a place named for Ein Rogel too, because this is all around the city of Jerusalem, which then did not exist as an Israelite city. It was a Jebusite city, right? So the Benjaminites were not able to have Jerusalem as part of its territory. 17, Vata'ar mitzafon v'yatsa ein shemesh v'yatsa el galilot asher nochach ma'alei adumim v'yarad even bohan ben Reuven. So it was drawn northward and went out to Ein Shemesh, and it went out to Galilot, which is against Ma'ale Adumim, which, by the way, is a place on the eastern side of Jerusalem. If you're going from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea on the straight road, Route 1, I think it is, right when you get outside of Jerusalem, you go through a tunnel and you get to Ma'ale Adumim, which is a Jewish city in what is technically Palestinian territory. Okay, that eastern side. So Marlene, we're on page 107 in our book. I'm reading chapter 18, a description of the boundaries of the tribe of Benjamin. And then from Ale Adumim, it went down to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. Okay, 18. Va'avar el ketef mul ha'arava tzafona. The Yarad Ha'aravata. And then it passed over the edge of the Arava northward, and then went down to the Arava, which is the name of that valley, which is then the Arava Valley is this below sea level valley from around the Dead Sea, from Jericho all the way down to Eilat. 19. Va'avar ha'gavul el ketef beit chodla tzafona v'hayu totzaotav ha'gavul el lashon yam hamelach tzafona el ketzei hayarden negba ze gavul negev. And the boundary went out to the side of Beit Chodla northward, and then the boundary went out to the tongue of the Dead Sea, or northward, to the edge of the Jordan River southward. That is the southern end of the Jordan River. This is the southern border of Benjamin. 20. V'hayarden yigbol oto lifa'at kedma zot nachalat b'nei Binyamin ligvuloteha saviv lemishpachotam. And the Jordan will be its boundary to the eastern side. This is the inheritance of the sons of Benjamin for their boundaries round about for their families. So it's a pretty sizable area, actually. 21. V'hayu ha'arim lemate b'nei Binyamin lemishpachotehem Yericho uvet chodla ve'emek kitzitz. So the cities for the tribe of the sons of Benjamin, for their families, were Jericho and Beit Chodla and Emek Kitzitz. 22. Uvet Arava Utsemarayim Uvet El. And also Beit Arava is another city, and Semarayim and Beit El. Ve'ha'avim ve'ha'para ve'ofra. And also Avim, Para, and Ofra. Ukefar ha'amonai ve'ha'ofni ve'gava arim shtemesrei v'chatzreihen. And Kfar, the Kfar Amona and the Ofna and Gava, there were 12 cities and their environs, or their villages that go with them. Givon v'harama uve'erot, also Givon, Ramah, Be'erot, Vaha Mitzpeh, Vaha Kefira, Vaha Motza, and Mitzpeh, Kefira, and Motza, Ve'rekem, Ve'yir Pe'el, Ve'tar Allah, additional cities, Rekem, Yir Pe'el, and Tar Allah, Ve'tzela, Ha'elef, Vaha Yevusi, Hi Yerushalayim, Givat, Kiryat Arim, Arba Esrei, Vachatzreihem, Zot Nachalat b'nei Binyamin lemishpachotam. And Selah and Eleph and the Jebusites, the same is Jerusalem, Givat, Kiryat, 14 more cities and their villages. This is the inheritance of the sons of Benjamin and their families. Okay. So now let's go back to the commentary. Let's go back to the commentary on the beginning on 103 for all of this. Shiloh. Now Silun, 12 miles south of Shechem and north of Beit El. Okay, just giving us a sense where Shiloh is, and set up the tent of meeting there. That is, the tent of meeting that they had constructed in the wilderness. There was no ceiling, but a stone structure below and curtains above. Thus we learn in Tractate Zivachim in the Talmud. So in other words, the Talmud tells us what the structure looked like when it was set up in Shiloh, that there was a stone structure. So now in the Torah, there's no stones with it. It was all wood and it was portable. So he's saying that when it was set up in Shiloh, according to the Talmud, it had a stone structure to it. Shiloh is referred to as the house of the Lord and also as the tent and the tent of Joseph. Hence, the rabbis deduced that it was a combination of a house and a tent. Right? So, in other words, we have references to the Mishkan and Shiloh, probably from here on through until the temple's built in Jerusalem. So, you have references to it in the book of Judges and in the books of Samuel and the beginning of the book of Kings. So for all those references, you have tent of Joseph, house of the Lord. So because of that, there's a sense among the rabbis in the Talmud and Midrash that it was added onto, that the Mishkan itself, the wooden Mishkan from the Torah, is added onto here in Shiloh. So commentary goes on, the erection of this structure had been prophesied by Moses, who referred to it as menucha, rest, in Deuteronomy chapter 12, right? So as opposed to Jerusalem, to which he refers to as Nachalah, inheritance. Shiloh's halachic status was similar to that of Jerusalem insofar as high places were taboo during the existence of both sanctuaries. In other words, you're not allowed to build other altars when the sanctuary of Shiloh or the temple in Jerusalem stood. The tent of meeting remained there for 369 years until the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant during the high priesthood of Eli in 1 Samuel 4, from which time dates the destruction of Shiloh. See Jeremiah 7 and Psalm 78. Okay, so
the old version is really different. The old version of this commentary is, even the numbers are different.
That's interesting.
There's a whole section on the
389 years, right?
Sorry, my electricity keeps going on and off.
That's all right. It's all right. So however they figure it out, 369 years from Joshua until the time of Samuel. That's a long time for that period. Is that right? I'm trying to think. So if that's the case, it's unclear for scholars today how they date the book of Joshua. They pretty much date King David to around 1000 BCE. So most scholars agree. When was Joshua? If Joshua was 1300. We're talking 300 years, not 389, not 369. So I don't know. It's a long time from one to the other. And in the time of Samuel, it's around the time of David. Okay, because David appears in Samuel, kills Goliath, the beginning of the book of Samuel. So it's around that time that the Philistines are capturing the ark. Okay.
Yeah, but even that whole section though is different. I mean, it talks about Bethel being having more hallowed memories and would have been the preferable place for a tent. I mean, it's just interesting that it's
right.
So
yes. All right. We'll see what Alter says about it too. The tent of meeting, where the Israelites could meet and commune with God. subdued but not completely. Right, they didn't completely conquer or eradicate, annihilate the Canaanites there. Okay, verse 2, 104, the literal translation of the verse is, and there remained among the children of Israel, whose inheritance they had not divided, 7 tribes. Slack to go in to possess the land. He should have said, why are you slack to divide the land? The intention was, however, that the Israelites realized that as soon as they received their territory, they would have to wage war to possess it. They neglected to do so in order that the entire nation would wage war for the entire land, rather than each tribe for its inheritance. Their hesitancy to divide the land was, therefore, in effect, hesitancy to possess it. So that's Abarvanel giving a reason why it took a while. So, which is different from what the old commentary says. Their war weariness was understandable, probably too. The tribes which had received their portion now wished to settle down and develop it, and were less eager to continue the fight. Joshua recalled them to their duty. It's really fascinating how the commentary is really different from one edition to the other. Okay, which the Lord has given you. In these words, Joshua reminded them of the divine purposes behind the conquest, and also of their obligation to take possession of the land. To those who were weary and perhaps disheartened by the slowness and incompleteness of the campaign, these were words of encouragement. To those who were satisfied now that they had their own territory, and perhaps to some of the landless who thought they could settle in the land of their more fortunate brethren or infiltrate into the unconquered portions, these were words of admonition and reproof. So in other words, tribes who are not allotted portions yet, don't think that you can live among the other tribes. You still got to get your own territory. Okay, 3 men for each tribe of the remaining 7 tribes. Their purpose was to make a survey of the land still to be conquered. Describe, literally write the area, the area concerned was to be recorded in detail, upon which the allotment was to be made. Divide it, namely the land both conquered and unconquered. The house of Joseph, Ephraim, and the half tribe of Manasseh. We're on 105, before the Lord our God, that is, before the tent of meeting. For the Levites have no portion, therefore there were only 7 remaining tribes, otherwise there would have been 8. The priesthood inheritance, this passage is parallel to Deuteronomy 18. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and his inheritance. Another parallel passage is found in Numbers 18. I am thy share and thy inheritance. Onkelos, the Aramaic translation, paraphrases, I'm on 106, the gifts that I have given thee, thy share and thy inheritance. Jonathan, that's another Aramaic translation, paraphrases our verse with the identical words, the gifts that the Lord gave them are their inheritance. Right, so so the older version has none of this. The inheritance of Benjamin. Of Benjamin's portion, Josephus remarked, this lot was the narrowest of all, by reason of the goodness of the land, for it included Jericho and the city of Jerusalem. To the side of Jericho, including the city. Beit Aven, see chapter 7. Luz, see chapter 16. Went down, Bethel is 3,000 feet above sea level. Atrot Adar, see chapter 16. By the mountain, that is from Atarot Adar, it continued to the mountain. Beit Haron the nether, Beit Haron did not come with Benjamin's territory, it belonged to Ephraim. Kiryat Yearim, see on chapter 9, a city of the children of Judah, though a boundary of Benjamin, the city belonged to Judah. The waters of Nephtoach, see on 15. The valley of the son of Hinnom, see chapter 15. The vale of Rephaim, see chapter 15. Ein Rogel, chapter 15. Ein Shemesh, chapter 15, where are also notes on Gelilot and the ascent of Adumim. The stone of Bohan, see chapter 15. Unto the Arava, to the city of Beit Arava in the territory of Judah. Beit Chogla, chapter 15. Bay 15, the south end of the Jordan where it flows into the Dead Sea. 108, of the tribe of Benjamin. The cities of Benjamin, having delineated the boundaries of Benjamin, the writer now lists its cities. They fall into two groups, 12 cities in the east and 14 in the west. Beit Chogla, Semarayim, perhaps Es Samra, north of Jericho. Not the same as Mount Zemarayim, which is the hill country of Ephraim. Avim, this may be another name for Ai. Para, Tel Farah, southeast of Jerusalem near Ein Farah. Ophrah, also called Ephraim, identified with Et Tayiba, a village 4 miles northeast of Bethel. Kfar Amonah, possibly the modern village of Kfar Ana, 3 miles north of Bethel. Geva, now Jeva, northeast of Jerusalem, a Levitical city. Gibeon, see chapter 9. Ramah, now Ram, 5 miles north of Jerusalem. Be'erot, see chapter 9. Mitzpeh, its remains may be Tel En Nazba, north of Ramah and near Atarot, but others identify it with Nabi Samuel, 5 miles northwest of Jerusalem. Chephirah, see chapter 9. Motzah, in the Mishnah, it is called Motzah, which has been identified with Kefer Kulanya, north of Jerusalem. The ancient name has been revived in a Jewish settlement near the old site. Ir Pe'el, some identify it with Rafat, north of El Jib. Selah, it is mentioned in 2 Samuel as the burial place of Saul and Jonathan. It may be Beit Jala, south of the plain of Rephaim. The rabbis located it in the outskirts of Jerusalem. Elef, unknown. It has been suggested that Selah HaElef, the Hebrew has a definite article, is one name, which is shortened in 2 Samuel 21 to Selah. The Jebusite, that is Jerusalem. Givat, more fully Givat Benjamin, and Givat Shaul, now Tel El Ful, north of Jerusalem. Kiryat, this is doubtless Kiryat Ye'arim, which is spelt Kiryat Arim in Ezra 2. The second half, Arim, corresponds with the word for cities in this verse, which immediately follows Kiryat. It is therefore probable that the word must be understood twice, and Kiryat taken as an abbreviated form of Kiryat Arim. Hershkovitz, quoting Professor Klein, makes the following comment: Kiryat has the construct form, the city of, and may be a shortened form for the city of an unnamed place, as Givat, also in the construct state, stands for Givat Benjamin. This interpretation provides the requisite 14 cities. It is possible, however, that only one city is intended, and the meaning of the whole phrase is the hill of Kiryat Arim. The hill of the place is emphasized because the city itself belonged to Judah. If this view is adopted, Arim in the text must be read with both halves of the verse, and the hill of Kiryat Arim, cities 14. This interpretation yields only 12 cities, and it would then have to be assumed that 2 have been omitted. Trying to figure out the numbers here, and also trying to figure out where these places are. All right, if we go to altar now, page 78, and the whole community of Israelites assembled at Shiloh. This marks a shift from the role of the encampment at Gilgal as the national assembly place. Shiloh, as its representation in the early chapters of 1 Samuel indicates, was a central sanctuary until its destruction by the Philistines sometime in the 11th century BCE. Placing the tent of meeting there would have confirmed its centrality. In subsequent narratives, the tent of meeting is not mentioned, but rather the Ark of the Covenant, which would have been within the tent of meeting. And there remain 7 tribes. If one subtracts Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Levi, all of which have already been accounted for, 7 tribes are left to be given their tribal territories. Now, this is interesting. So the other commentary points out that half of Manasseh still has to be given, but God was given already. So it's just interesting that he counts it a little bit differently. Write out the land, still more literally, this would be write the land. The obvious sense is to draw up a set of notations of the boundaries of the tribal territories. I shall cast a lot for you here before the Lord. The drawing up of tribal boundaries by the representatives of the 7 tribes is then to be confirmed by divine lot. As Shmuel Achituv has written, the use of such a lottery for the division of land was widespread in the ancient Near East. Cast the lot. The Hebrew text here uses a different verb from the one in verse 6, but both mean to cast or fling, suggesting that the mechanism for the lot involved dice-like objects. Fell out literally went up. Vale of Ben Hinnom, the valley of Rephaim. The Hebrew uses 2 different words for valley, Gay and Emek. It is possible that the former designates a smaller topographical entity. Both valleys are within the perimeters of modern-day Jerusalem, though they would have been outside the city to the west in ancient times. Jerusalem, it is little surprising that Jerusalem, conquered from the Jebusites by David, who was a Judahite, is here assigned to the tribe of Benjamin. It has been suggested that this apportionment reflects a later period when the unity of Benjamin and Judah, the 2 southern tribes, was firmly established, and the old rivalry between the 2, registered in the book of Samuel, had long since vanished. Kiryat Ye'arim, the Masoretic text reads Kiryat Arim, Kiryat towns, or city of towns. This translation adopts a proposal in part based on the Septuagint, that's the Greek translation, that a haplography occurred. That is, something's missing, with the original text reading Kiryat Ye'arim Arim. Kiryat Ye'arim, 14 towns. Okay, so
do you know offhand what the falling out with Benjamin and
we'll
and
read
Judah?
about it in the book of Judges.
Yeah, I mean I've read it. I just can't remember what do you remember offhand what it was?
Something to do with a rape of somebody, I think. We'll see when we get there in Judges. All right, we'll stop here for today. I got things to do still to get ready for Shabbat and Yom Kippur. So we'll continue next Friday, Erev Sukkot, and and then the following Friday, Hoshana Rabbah. Yeah, I'll tell you next week about the plans as we go forward. All right, have a good rest of the day. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and Gemar Chatima Tova. May we be sealed for good in the book of life. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, Jonah. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Torah.